The alarm echoed through the steel corridors of the colony ship. Commander woke from his sleep and rushed to the bridge. His uniform was still wrinkled, but there was no time to care about appearance. Something important had happened, and it had to be urgent for the night crew to wake him. When he arrived at the bridge, Doctor was already there, staring at the main screen. Her dark eyes reflected the blue light of the monitor. She did not turn around when entered. She just pointed at the display. "We received a signal," she said quietly, "from one of the old probes." Moved closer. The probe had been sent out 300 years ago, back when the Hidden Fleet still hoped to find other survivors. It had traveled far into Council space, silent and invisible, designed to watch and record. For 3 centuries it had sent nothing. Now, finally, it had something to say. The data streamed across the screen. Images of massive space stations, records of ships moving between star systems, lists of species and populations, and most importantly, confirmation that the Galactic Council still ruled most of the known galaxy. Felt his jaw tighten. 3,000 years had passed since the Council tried to erase humanity from existence. 3,000 long years of hiding in the dark corners of space, living in generation ships, cycling people through just to preserve resources. All because the Council had decided humanity was too dangerous to exist. "They think we're gone," said. She finally turned to face him. There were tears in her eyes, but her voice was steady. "The probe intercepted their communications. They celebrate the anniversary of Earth's destruction every cycle. They tell stories about the dangerous humans who had to be eliminated for the good of the galaxy." Said nothing. He watched the images scroll past. The Council had grown fat and lazy. Their empire covered 40% of the galaxy now. 847 species lived under their rule, all of them controlled, all of them obedient. "Call the other commanders," said. "Wake everyone from sleep. It's time we made a decision." Within hours, the leadership of the last fleet gathered in the Council chamber. It was a simple room, built for function rather than beauty. 50 people sat around a long table. These were the descendants of those who had escaped Earth's destruction. Some had been born in space. Others had spent most of their lives in, waking only when needed. All of them carried the weight of survival. Captain stood up first. He was young, only 32, but he had trained his entire life to be a pilot. His family had served in the fleet for generations. "We should strike," he said. His voice was hard. "They killed our world. They murdered 14 billion people. We owe them justice." Admiral Sung, the oldest person in the room, shook his head slowly. "Justice or revenge, Captain? There's a difference. We are few. They are many. If we reveal ourselves, they might finish what they started." "Then we stay hidden forever," shot back. "We live like rats in the dark, afraid of our own shadow. That's not survival, that's just slow death." The argument went on for hours. Some wanted revenge. Others wanted to remain hidden. A few suggested trying to make contact, to show the Council that humanity had learned and changed. Listened to all of them, but he said nothing yet. He was waiting for the right moment. Engineer brought new information. She was young but brilliant, the kind of mind that saw solutions where others saw only problems. "I've been analyzing their technology," she said. "The probe gave us detailed scans. Their ships, their weapons, their defenses. It's all old. They haven't innovated in over 1,000 years. They don't need to. Nobody challenges them." "And us?" asked. Smiled. It was not a kind smile. "We've spent 3,000 years doing nothing but innovating. We had to. Every system on our ships has been rebuilt a dozen times. Every weapon improved. Every shield strengthened. We did it because we had no choice. Survival demanded it." "So we're stronger?" asked. "I think we might be," said. "But there's only one way to know for sure." That night couldn't sleep. He walked through the ship, past the chambers where thousands of humans rested in frozen dreams. He stopped at the observation deck and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth still existed. The probe had confirmed it. The planet had been scorched, bombed until its surface melted, but it had not been destroyed completely. It still orbited its star, a dead rock memorial to what had been lost. Found him there. She stood beside him in silence for a long time before speaking. "What will you decide?" "I keep thinking about my grandmother," said. "She was alive when the attack happened. She was one of the last people to evacuate. She told me that she watched from the ship's window as the missiles fell. She said the whole planet glowed orange, then red, then white. She said it looked like a dying star." "I'm sorry." "She lived to be 112, continued. "Spent her whole life on this ship. Never saw another real world. Never felt natural gravity. Never breathed air that didn't come from a recycler. And you know what she told me before she died?" Shook her head. "She said, 'Don't let them forget we existed. Don't let them erase us from history. Even if you can't win, make them remember.' Those were her last words." Turned away from the window. His face was set with determination. "The Council thinks they erased humanity. They think we're just a cautionary tale they tell their children. They're wrong. We're going to show them that you can't erase an idea. You can't kill hope. And you definitely can't destroy the human spirit." "So we're going to war?" asked. "No," said. "We're going to make them pay for what they did. We're going to free every species they've enslaved. And we're going to make sure that when the galaxy tells stories about humanity, they tell the truth, not their lies." The next morning stood before the assembled fleet leadership. He spoke for only 5 minutes. When he finished, the vote was unanimous. The last fleet would emerge from hiding. They would strike at the Council, and they would make humanity known again. Captain smiled as the meeting ended. Engineer began making lists of what they would need. Admiral Sung looked worried but accepting. Doctor started planning how to document everything so that future generations would know what happened and why. The age of hiding was over. Humanity was coming back, and the galaxy would never be the same. The preparation took 6 months. 6 months of constant work, planning, and training. The hidden colony called New Seoul became a hive of activity. Every person had a task. Every task mattered. Tactical Officer Wu Jin led the intelligence division. He was a thin man with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. He had studied every piece of data the probe had sent back. Now he needed more, much more. "We're going in," he told his team of 12 specialists. They stood in a briefing room, looking at star maps projected on the wall. "We need to know their military strength, their communication networks, and their political structure. We need to find their weak points." His second-in-command, a woman named, raised her hand. "How do we get close without being detected?" Wu Jin smiled. "Dr. Song has been working on something special." Dr. Song was not like other scientists. She did not care about recognition or glory. She cared about results. For 2 years, she had been developing a new type of engine based on quantum phase technology. It was complicated science, but the result was simple. Ships equipped with her drive could slip between normal space and subspace, making them invisible to every known type of sensor. "We call it the Ghost Drive," explained to the gathered commanders. She was standing in front of a prototype fighter ship. It looked sleek and deadly. The ship exists in multiple quantum states at once. To any sensor, it appears to be empty space, background radiation, nothing worth noticing. "How fast can it go?" Captain asked. He was eager to test it. "Faster than anything the Council has," said. "We've broken past their fastest speeds by 40%, and we can do it while invisible." Let out a low whistle. "When can I fly one?" 3 weeks. We're building 50 of them." While the Ghost Drive was being perfected, Engineer worked on weapons. The Council used energy weapons, standard plasma cannons, and laser arrays. They were effective but predictable, wanted something different. She designed kinetic missiles with quantum warheads. They were small, fast, and devastating. More importantly, they left almost no trace. When they hit, the target simply stopped existing. No debris, no energy signature, just empty space where something used to be. It's perfect for what we need, she explained too. We can strike and leave no evidence. The council won't know what hit them or who did it. Training the new warriors was another challenge. Most of the people in the fleet had never fought a real battle. They had trained in simulations, but that was different from actual combat. Lieutenant Na took charge of preparing the special operations teams. Was young, only 26, but she carried an old anger. Her great-great-grandmother had been on Earth when the attack happened. The family story had been passed down through generations, had grown up hearing about the screams, the fire, the desperate evacuation. It had shaped her entire life. "We're not going to fight like soldiers," she told her trainees. "We're going to fight like ghosts. We hit hard, we hit fast, and we disappear. They won't see us coming and they won't know what happened until it's over." The trainees worked 12 hours a day. They learned to move in zero gravity. They learned to breach ships and stations. They learned to kill silently and efficiently. It was brutal training, but nobody complained. Everyone knew what was at stake. Wu Jin took his team into council space after 2 months of preparation. They used a small scout ship equipped with the Ghost Drive. The journey took 3 weeks. When they arrived at the edge of council territory, they went completely silent. For 40 days, they watched and listened. They intercepted communications. They recorded ship movements. They identified military bases and supply routes. And most importantly, they made contact with species that were under council control. The first contact was with a merchant. They were a peaceful species that had been conquered 800 years ago. They served the council because they had no choice. Wu Jin approached the merchant carefully in a neutral trading post. "I represent a group interested in freedom," Wu Jin said quietly. They were sitting in a dark corner of a bar, far from listening devices. The merchant, an old creature with blue skin and 4 arms, looked at him with tired eyes. "Freedom is a fantasy. The council owns everything. What if I told you that humanity survived?" The merchant's eyes went wide. "Humanity, the extinct war species, that's impossible. The council destroyed them 3,000 years ago." "The council tried," Wu Jin said. "They failed and now we're back." The merchant stared at him for a long moment, then began to laugh. It was a bitter sound. "If that's true, if humanity really survived, then maybe there's hope after all. The council has been cruel to many species. Your people aren't the only ones who suffered." "Then help us," Wu Jin said. "Tell us what you know." Over the next 2 weeks, Wu Jin and his team met with representatives from 3 different species. They all had the same story. The council ruled through fear and control. They suppressed technology. They limited resources. They crushed any sign of independence. Most species had given up hope of ever being free. "But if humanity fights," a warrior told Wu Jin, "others will fight too. We've been waiting for someone to stand up first." When Wu Jin returned to New Seoul, he brought back valuable intelligence. He had complete maps of council military installations. He had lists of ships and weapons. He had identified key political figures. And he had something even more valuable: potential allies. "5 species are ready to help us," he reported too. "They won't fight openly, not at first, but they'll provide information, supplies, and safe havens. They're waiting to see if we're serious." "We're serious," said. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Na was given a special mission. The council kept all their important records in a central archive on their capital world. That archive contained everything: military plans, historical records, and most importantly, the identity and location of every council lord. "I need that information," told her. "Can you get it?" Looked at the mission plan. It was dangerous, possibly suicidal. She would have to infiltrate the most heavily guarded planet in the galaxy, break into the archive, steal the data, and escape, all without being detected. "I'll need a team," she said. "Take whoever you want." Chose 8 people. All of them were volunteers. All of them understood they might not come back. They trained for 6 weeks specifically for this mission, learning every detail of the archive's layout, security systems, and guard rotations. When they finally launched, the entire fleet watched them go. Captain flew them to the Council Capital system in a Ghost drive ship. They slipped past defense networks like shadows. Nobody saw them arrive. The infiltration took 12 hours. His team moved through the archive like smoke, avoiding guards and cameras. They found the central computer core and connected their data extraction device. It took 4 hours to copy everything. Then alarms started screaming. "We've been detected," one of his team members shouted. "Security is converging on our position." "Get the data and run," ordered. The escape was chaos. Council guards filled the corridors. Plasma fire lit up the darkness. His team fought their way back to the extraction point, but 4 of them didn't make it. They died buying time for the others to escape. When finally made it back to the ship with the data drive, she was wounded and exhausted. Half her team was gone, but they had succeeded. "Was it worth it?" asked as they fled into deep space. Looked at the data drive in her bloody hand. It contained everything they needed to strike at the heart of the Council. "Yes," she said, "they didn't die for nothing." When the fleet reviewed the stolen data, they found something disturbing. The Council had been developing a weapon called the Final Sterilization Protocol. It could ignite stars, destroying entire solar systems. The technology existed and was ready to deploy. "If they discover we're alive," Admiral Sung said grimly, "they'll use this against us." "Then we need to move fast," said. "We strike before they know we exist." The preparations were complete. The Ghost Fleet was ready. The warriors were trained. The targets were identified. Humanity had spent 3,000 years preparing for this moment. Now it was time to remind the galaxy that humanity could not be erased. The first attack happened on a Tuesday, though time meant little in the void of space. Captain led a squadron of 12 Ghost Drive fighters toward a Council military outpost on the frontier. The outpost was called Station Meridian, and it housed 300 Council soldiers and administrators. Station Meridian would cease to exist in the next 6 hours. His hands moved smoothly across the controls. The Ghost Drive made the ship feel strange, like it was half real and half dream. Around him, the other 11 fighters maintained perfect formation. They had trained for this moment for months. Now it was finally happening. "All units maintain silence," said over the secure channel. "We ghost in, we strike, we ghost out. Nobody sees us coming. Nobody survives to tell the story." The squadron approached the station from the dark side, where sensors were weakest. The Council had grown lazy over the centuries. Their security was more for show than actual defense. They hadn't faced a real threat in 1,000 years. That was about to change. Gave the signal. 12 fighters dropped out of quantum phase and appeared right on top of the station. Before the Council forces could even react, the human missiles launched. Quantum warheads struck the station at 12 different points simultaneously. The station didn't explode. It simply stopped being there. One moment it existed. The next moment there was only empty space and scattered atoms. 300 lives ended in less than a second. They probably never knew what happened. "Target eliminated," reported. "No survivors, no debris, returning to base." The squadron slipped back into quantum phase and disappeared. The entire attack had taken 4 minutes. It was the first of many. Over the next 3 weeks, human forces struck at 17 Council outposts across the frontier. Each attack followed the same pattern. The Ghost Fleet appeared from nowhere, destroyed the target completely, and vanished without a trace. The Council didn't know who was attacking them or why. Commander watched the reports come in from the command center. Each successful strike was marked on the tactical map. The Council was panicking. Their communications were filled with confusion and fear. "They're calling us phantoms," Doctor said. She was monitoring the intercepted messages. They don't understand what's happening. Some of them think it's a technical malfunction. Others believe it's a new weapon being tested by a rival faction. Good said, let them wonder, fear is its own weapon. But not everyone in the council was foolish. Council Lord Vex was the head of council security, and he was dangerous. Unlike most council leaders, he had studied military history. He understood warfare, and he was beginning to see a pattern. These aren't accidents, told the other council lords during an emergency session. We're under attack. Someone has developed stealth technology that surpasses our sensors. Who? Another council lord demanded. None of the subject species have this capability. I don't know yet, admitted, but I will find out, and when I do, I will destroy them. Ordered a massive mobilization. Council fleets were pulled from peaceful systems and sent to the frontier. Thousands of ships began patrolling the border, looking for any sign of the mysterious attackers. But they were looking in the wrong places. While the council focused on the frontier tactical officer, Wu Jin led a covert operation deep into council core territory. His mission was different from the military strikes. He was there to free allies. That was the first target. The council had kept thee under strict control for 8 centuries. They were not allowed to have weapons or ships. They served as merchants and traders, always under council oversight. Wu Jin's team arrived in orbit at night. They hacked into the planetary communication network and broadcast a message directly to resistance leaders. Humanity has returned, the message said. We offer you freedom. Will you fight with us? The response came quickly. Within hours, rebels across the planet began to rise up. They attacked council administrators and security forces. The planet erupted in chaos. By the time council reinforcements could arrive, they had seized control of their major cities. Wu Jin provided them with weapons and supplies before disappearing back into the dark. They were now allies, and they brought valuable intelligence about council operations. The pattern repeated with thee and the. Both species had been waiting for someone to stand up to the council. When humanity offered them freedom, they took it without hesitation. Within a month, 3 entire species had joined the rebellion. The galaxy was starting to wake up. Scout Hay was conducting a reconnaissance mission near a council research facility when she discovered something that made her blood run cold. The facility was working on something called the Final Sterilization Protocol. She infiltrated the base, the files, and barely escaped with her life. When she brought the information back to New Seoul, the entire command staff gathered to review it. What they saw was horrifying. It's a star killer, Dr. Song explained, her face pale. They can target a star and trigger a chain reaction that causes it to go supernova. Everything in the system gets destroyed. Planets, stations, ships, everything. How many of these weapons do they have? Asked. According to the files, they have 37 ready to deploy, Hay said, and they're building more. We need to destroy those weapons, Admiral Sung said. If the Council realizes we're alive, they'll use them against our colony systems. Agreed, said. But first, we need to move faster. We need to hit them harder. We need to make them too confused and scared to think about using those weapons. The attacks intensified. Captain Squadron destroyed 6 more stations in a single week. Engineer developed new weapons that could disable entire fleets without destroying them, leaving ghost ships drifting in space with no crew. The Council's response became more desperate. They pulled fleets from everywhere, trying to defend against an enemy they couldn't see. Trade routes collapsed. Communication networks became unreliable. Subject species saw the Council's weakness and began to question their authority. Then came the encounter that changed everything. Was leading a raid on a Council supply depot when his squadron detected an unexpected patrol. 20 Council warships, much larger and more powerful than anything they had encountered before. It was a trap. had finally figured out the attack pattern and set up an ambush. "All units abort mission," ordered. "We're getting out of here." But as the squadron tried to phase out, they discovered the Council had deployed some kind of quantum inhibitor field. The ghost drive wouldn't work. They were trapped. "Looks like we do this the old way," said grimly. "All units arm conventional weapons. We fight our way out." The battle was brutal. Human fighters were faster and more maneuverable than Council ships, but they were heavily outnumbered. Pilots flew like demons, weaving between enemy fire, striking at weak points, using every trick they had learned. 3 human fighters were destroyed, but they took down 8 Council warships before breaking free of the inhibitor field and escaping into quantum phase. It was humanity's first real loss, but it proved something important. The Council could bleed. Their ships could be destroyed by conventional weapons. They were not invincible. When returned to base, his ship was damaged and his squadron was reduced. He expected to be reprimanded for losing people. Instead, met him on the landing deck. "You did well," said. "You proved we can beat them in a fair fight. Now imagine what we'll do when we bring our full strength against them." News of the battle spread quickly through both human and Council channels. The Council now knew they were facing a real enemy, one with advanced technology and skilled pilots, but they still didn't know who. Studied the wreckage of his ambush. His scientists analyzed the debris from the destroyed human fighters. What they found shocked them. The technology was human, old Earth designs, but improved far beyond what should have been possible. "It's not possible," one scientist told. "Humanity was extinct. We made sure of it." "Apparently," said coldly, "we were not thorough enough." He immediately brought this information to the full Council. The chamber erupted in panic when he announced that humanity had survived. "Deploy the final sterilization protocol," one Council lord shouted. "Find their colonies and destroy them before they can threaten us." "We don't know where they are," said, "and we don't know how many of them survived. If we act rashly, we might trigger something worse." But the Council was beyond reason. They were terrified. The species they thought they had erased 3,000 years ago had come back stronger and more dangerous than ever. They voted to activate the Star Killer weapons. News of this decision reached the human fleet through their intelligence network. The galaxy was holding its breath. The war was about to become much more serious. Humanity had drawn first blood, but the Council was preparing to respond with overwhelming force. The question was whether humanity could strike fast enough to prevent it. The War Council met in the largest chamber of New Sol. Every ship captain, every squadron leader, every department head was present. The room was crowded and tense. Everyone knew what was at stake. Commander stood at the front, looking at the faces of humanity's survivors. "The Council knows we exist," he said. "They're preparing to use their Star Killer weapons against us. We have maybe 2 weeks before they find our colony systems. When they do, they'll destroy everything." "So what do we do?" someone asked. "We attack everything at once," said. "We hit every major Council world simultaneously. We broadcast the truth across every communication channel in the galaxy. We turn their own subjects against them. And we make sure that when history remembers this moment, it remembers that humanity did not go quietly into the dark." Admiral Sung stood up. He was old and the weight of command had aged him even more, but his voice was strong. "This is our moment. We've prepared for 3,000 years. Our ancestors died so we could survive. Now we make their sacrifice mean something." The fleet mobilized in ways that would have been impossible for the old Council forces. Human ships could coordinate through quantum communication, allowing instant updates across vast distances. Every captain knew exactly what they needed to do. Captain was assigned to lead the assault on the Council's second largest military base. Engineer had developed a new weapon specifically for this mission. It was a virus that would infect the base's computer systems, turning their own defenses against them. Give me 4 minutes, told. That's all I need to upload the virus. Then the base will tear itself apart. Nodded, you'll get your 4 minutes. While the military prepared for assault, Doctor worked on something equally important. She had compiled 3,000 years of evidence about the Council's crimes, the Erasure protocol that destroyed humanity, the suppression of 47 other species throughout history, the theft of resources, the crushing of hope. We need to show the galaxy who the real monsters are, said Tu. Can you broadcast to every system in Council space? Dr. Song says yes. Her team has been mapping their communication networks. When the time comes, we'll hijack every channel. Every screen, every speaker, every device in Council space will carry our message. Good, make it count. The attack began at dawn, though dawn was just a concept in space. Humanity struck at 70 different Council targets at exactly the same moment. The coordination was perfect. Squadron appeared above the military base and immediately engaged the defense fleet. Human fighters danced between enemy fire, keeping the Council forces busy. While they fought, ships slipped close to the base and uploaded the virus. The virus worked perfectly. Within minutes, the base's own weapons turned on its defenders. Plasma cannons that should have been firing at human ships instead fired at Council vessels. Missile batteries launched their loads at the base's own shields. The base destroyed itself while the Council forces watched in horror. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Council military installations fell one after another, but the real damage came from something else. At exactly the same time as the military attacks, every communication device in Council space activated. Screens lit up, speakers crackled to life, and humanity's message began to play. Doctor's face appeared on billions of screens across hundreds of worlds. Her voice was calm but powerful. People of the galaxy, we are humanity. You were told we were extinct. You were told we were too dangerous to exist. You were told the Council destroyed us for the good of all species. These were lies. The broadcast showed evidence. Images of Earth before the attack, videos of the Erasure protocol being launched, Council communications celebrating the genocide, names and faces of the Council lords who had ordered it. But we survived, continued, and in our exile we learned that we were not the Council's first victims. 47 other species were destroyed before us, species that asked too many questions, species that wanted freedom, species that refused to obey. The broadcast showed records of all 47 extinct species. Most people in the galaxy had never heard of them. The Council had erased them from history. The Council rules through fear and lies, said. They tell you that their control keeps you safe. They tell you that peace requires submission. They tell you that freedom is dangerous. More lies. The final part of the broadcast was the most powerful. It showed the final sterilization protocol, images of the Star Killer weapons, plans for their deployment, Council communications discussing which systems would be destroyed if any species stepped out of line. They have weapons that can kill entire solar systems, said. They are prepared to use them, not just against humanity, but against any of you who dare to want freedom. This is the peace they offer you, the peace of the grave. The broadcast ended with a simple message. Stand up, fight back, take your freedom. Humanity will stand with you. The galaxy exploded. On 70 different worlds, rebellions started within hours of the broadcast. Species that had been under Council control for centuries suddenly remembered what freedom meant. They attacked Council administrators. They seized government buildings. They declared independence. The Council tried to respond, but their forces were scattered and confused. They had never faced this kind of coordinated uprising before, and while they tried to restore order, humanity kept attacking. Tactical Officer Wu Jin executed the next phase of the plan. He had been waiting for this moment for months. Three council lords were living in the same city on the capital world. They felt safe there, surrounded by guards and security systems. Wu Jin proved them wrong. He moved through the capital like a shadow. He had studied the layout for weeks, memorizing every street, every building, every guard rotation. He struck at night when the lords were in their homes. The first lord died in his sleep, never knowing what happened. The second lord saw Wu Jin coming and tried to run. It didn't save him. The third lord actually managed to draw a weapon, but Wu Jin was faster. Three council lords dead in a single night. Wu Jin left messages at each scene, simple words that would terrify the remaining lords. Humanity remembers. The council government was falling apart. Half the subject species were in open rebellion. Human forces controlled key military bases. Three lords were dead, and the remaining council lords were trapped in their capital, surrounded by angry populations demanding justice. Council Lord Vex tried to rally the defenses. He was smart enough to know that conventional tactics wouldn't work against humanity, so he prepared to do something desperate. "Activate the final sterilization protocol," he ordered. "Target the human colony systems. I don't care if we can't confirm their exact locations. Fire the weapons at every system that could possibly harbor them." But when his technicians tried to activate the Star Killer weapons, nothing happened. They tried again, still nothing. The weapons were offline. "What's wrong?" demanded. "Sir, we're locked out of the system," a technician said, her voice shaking. "Someone has taken control of the weapons. We can't access them." Dr. Song had been waiting for this moment. She had spent weeks studying the Star Killer technology through stolen data. She had found its weakness in the control system that the Council had never bothered to secure. When the Council tried to fire the weapons, she took control. "We have their Star Killers," reported to. "What do you want to do with them?" Thought about it for a long moment. He thought about Earth dead and burning. He thought about the 14 billion people who had died. He thought about revenge. Then he thought about what kind of people humanity wanted to be. "Target the council capital," he said. "But don't fire. Send them a message. Tell them we could destroy them right now. Tell them we're choosing not to. Tell them to surrender, and we'll show them the mercy they never showed us." The message was delivered. The council lords gathered in their chamber, looking at the tactical display that showed 37 Star Killer weapons pointed at their core worlds. Each weapon could destroy an entire solar system. The Council finally understood that they had lost, but refused to surrender. "We are the Council. We rule the galaxy. We will never bow to extinct humans." He pulled out a weapon and aimed it at the other lords, trying to force them to keep fighting. But before he could fire, Lieutenant Na appeared behind him. Her team had infiltrated the council chamber while everyone was distracted. "You murdered my people," said quietly. "You killed my world. You tried to erase us from history." Turned to face her, his weapon raised. Was faster. The council lord fell, and with him, the last resistance of the council government. The remaining council lords surrendered the next day. They broadcast their capitulation across the entire galaxy. The war was over. Humanity had won. 6 months after the Council's surrender, the galaxy was still learning how to be free. It was not an easy process. Some species adapted quickly, grateful to finally control their own destinies. Others struggled, uncertain how to govern themselves after centuries of being told what to do. Commander stood in what used to be the Council's main chamber. Representatives from 200 different species filled the room. They had come to discuss the future, to decide what would replace the Council's empire. "We should make you the new leader," a diplomat said to. "Humanity won the war. You have the right to rule." Shook his head. "We didn't fight so we could become the new oppressors. We fought so everyone could be free. If we take power now, we become what we destroyed." "Then what do you suggest?" a representative asked. "A real democracy," said. Every species gets an equal vote. Every world has representation. No more empires. No more councils deciding what's best for everyone else. We build something new together. The debate went on for weeks. There were arguments about voting systems, representation quotas, military organization, and trade agreements. Some species wanted humanity to take a leadership role. Others were suspicious of humanity's power. A few former council species worried about revenge. Doctor became the voice of reconciliation. She had spent 3 months documenting everything that had happened, creating a complete historical record. Now she stood before the assembly and shared her conclusions. The council's greatest crime was not just genocide, said. It was the lie that some species were better than others, that some had the right to rule and others had the duty to obey. If we build our new government on those same lies, we've learned nothing. She proposed the creation of the Galactic Assembly, where every species would have equal representation regardless of size, military strength, or technological advancement. Each world would elect its own representatives. Decisions would be made by majority vote. No single species could veto or control the others. It won't be perfect, admitted. Democracy never is. There will be arguments and disagreements, but at least it will be honest. At least it will be fair. After months of debate, the proposal passed. The Galactic Assembly was born. Doctor was elected as its first speaker, not because she was human, but because both former council species and liberated species trusted her to be fair. Admiral Sung took on a different task. The galaxy was full of weapons, and many of them were dangerous beyond measure. The star killer devices were the worst, but there were others. Biological weapons, reality warping technology, tools designed only for destruction. These need to be dismantled, Sung said at a military council meeting. All of them. No species should have the power to destroy entire solar systems. It was controversial. Some argued that the weapons should be kept as a deterrent, but Sung was firm. Deterrents become temptations, and temptations become tragedies. We've seen what happens when one group has too much power over others. We won't make that mistake again. Over the next year, international teams worked to dismantle the most dangerous weapons. The star killer devices were taken apart piece by piece. Their technology was studied and then destroyed. Some council scientists protested, arguing that the knowledge might be needed someday, but the decision stood. Meanwhile, captain and engineer had gotten married during the celebrations after the war. Now they were leading an expedition back to Earth. It was a journey that many humans had dreamed about but few believed would ever happen. The journey took 2 months. When their ship finally entered Earth's solar system, felt his heart racing. This was the world of his ancestors, the world that 14 billion humans had died defending, the world the Council had tried to destroy. What they found shocked everyone. Earth was alive. Not fully healed, not restored to its former glory, but alive. The oceans had returned, though they were smaller than before. Grass grew in vast plains where cities had once stood. Trees sprouted in the craters left by Council weapons. Animals, descendants of the few species that had survived in underground pockets, now roamed the surface. Life found a way, whispered, staring at the images on the screen. They landed in what used to be Korea. The cities were gone, replaced by forests and grasslands, but some structures remained, buried under centuries of regrowth, and walked through the ruins, touching stones that their ancestors had touched. "We should build a monument here," said, "something to remember everyone we lost." They did more than that. They established Earth as a memorial world, protected by international agreement. No one could colonize it or exploit its resources. It would remain as a reminder of what had been lost and what had been saved. A monument to both tragedy and hope. The monument they built was simple. A black stone wall, 50 meters tall, with the names of every person who had died in the erasure. 14 billion names. It took years to carve them all. People from across the galaxy came to visit, to remember, to learn. At the base of the monument, they carved words that had chosen. They tried to erase us. They failed. Remember what was lost. Cherish what remains. Never again. Lieutenant Nuff found new purpose in the aftermath of war. She became the director of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, working with Tactical Officer Wu Jin to document the Council's crimes and help traumatized species heal. It was difficult work. Many species had suffered under Council rule, some for centuries, others for. The pain ran deep. There was anger, grief, and a desire for revenge. "Revenge won't heal you," told a group of survivors who wanted to execute former Council administrators. "Trust me, I wanted revenge too. I got it. And you know what? It didn't bring back the people I lost. It didn't make the pain go away." "Then what does?" one of the asked. "Truth," said. "Justice. Making sure it never happens again, building something better. Those things help slowly, but they help." The commission held trials for council lords and administrators who had committed crimes. Some were sentenced to prison. Others were ordered to help rebuild the worlds they had damaged. A few, those whose crimes were too terrible to forgive, were executed. But the executions were rare and carried out only after fair trials. "We need to be better than them," Wu Jin said at one of the trials. "If we become monsters to fight monsters, then the monsters win." Dr. Song turned her genius toward peaceful applications. She developed new medical technology that could cure diseases that had plagued species for generations. She created environmental restoration systems that helped damaged worlds heal faster. She designed new communication networks that connected the galaxy more efficiently than ever before. "I spent so much time building weapons," said in an interview. "Now I want to build things that help people live, not die." Scout Hay made a surprising discovery while exploring the old council archives. Hidden deep in classified files, she found records showing that 3 council lords had secretly opposed the Erasure Protocol 3,000 years ago. They had argued against genocide, warned that it was wrong, and tried to stop it. They had been outvoted and then silenced. "This is important," Hay told the assembly. "It proves that even in the darkest times, some people chose to stand for what was right. Evil isn't about species. It's about choices." The information changed how many people viewed the former council species. They began to understand that the council had been a government, not a representation of entire species. Many former council citizens had known nothing about the crimes committed in their names. 2 years after the war ended, representatives from 200 species gathered on Earth for a ceremony. They stood at the memorial wall in front of the 14 billion names. Human children played nearby with, and children, their laughter mixing with the wind. Commander, now retired from military service, gave a speech. He was older now, his hair, but his voice was still strong. "We stand here today not as conquerors or rulers, but as equals," said. "Humanity did not return to this galaxy to seek revenge or to build an empire. We returned to make sure that what happened to us never happens to anyone else." He gestured to the monument. These 14 billion people did not die so humanity could rule. They died because they dared to be different, because they refused to be controlled, because they believed in freedom. Today, we sign the Never Again Accords. Every species here promises that genocide will be met with united response, that oppression will not be tolerated, that freedom is the right of all intelligent beings. Representatives from every species stepped forward to sign the document. Former enemies stood together. Liberated species stood beside their former oppressors. Everyone understood that they were creating something new, something fragile, something worth protecting. As the sun set on Earth, looked at the crowd. He saw humans laughing with aliens. He saw former council species working alongside those they had once oppressed. He saw children who would grow up knowing only peace and cooperation. "Did we do the right thing?" Admiral Sung asked quietly, standing beside. Thought about it. He thought about all the people who had died, all the sacrifices that had been made, all the pain and loss and struggle. We did what had to be done, he said finally. We proved that extinction is impossible, that hope cannot be killed, that humanity endures. He looked up at the stars, at the galaxy that humanity had once called home and then had lost and now had reclaimed. And more than that, we gave the galaxy a chance to be better. What happens next is up to all of us. The ceremony ended as darkness fell, but it was not the darkness of despair or extinction. It was the comfortable darkness of evening, followed by the promise of morning. The galaxy had been through fire and emerged changed. Not perfect, but better. Not without problems, but with hope. Humanity had returned not as conquerors, but as partners in building a new future. And the galaxy, freed from the chains of the old council, was finally ready to embrace that future together. 3,000 years of hiding, years of preparation, months of war, and now finally peace, real peace. Not the forced silence of oppression, but the honest peace of cooperation. The human species had been erased from history once. They had clawed their way back from extinction. They had fought and sacrificed and struggled. And in the end, they had won not by becoming monsters, but by staying human. That was the greatest victory of all. As the stars came out above Earth, one by one, it almost seemed like the planet itself was healing, celebrating, welcoming its children home. Somewhere in the grasslands, a bird sang. Somewhere in the oceans, fish swam in schools. Somewhere in the forests, animals prepared for sleep. Life continued, life endured, life found a way. And humanity, against all odds, was part of it once again.